Max Verstappen is seriously considering early retirement, and it's not because of Red Bull's dominance ending. According to recent FIA statements, the new 2026 regulations are creating panic in the paddock that nobody saw coming. But here's what's really shocking: why are cars that will be 2.5 seconds slower somehow supposed to entertain the world's best drivers? Why is Charles Leclerc saying drivers will have to forget everything they've learned and start from scratch? And most importantly, why are multiple sources suggesting that these new regulations are so over-artificialized that they could drive F1's biggest star away from the sport forever? The FIA has just revealed some surprising and worrying facts from drivers that they genuinely didn't expect. And what Nicholas Tombazis, the FIA's single-seater president, is saying in defense might actually make the situation worse. Let's start with the numbers, because they're genuinely alarming. According to Tombazis himself, the new cars will be between 1 and 2.5 seconds slower at the start of the regulations. That's not a minor adjustment, that's a fundamental shift that goes against everything. But the speed isn't even the biggest concern. Multiple drivers are raising serious red flags. Verstappen, who has already hinted at early retirement, is becoming increasingly vocal about these regulations. Lance Stroll has made a particularly damning statement saying the new regulations are over-artificialized, with tons of rules ruining the sport's nature. Charles Leclerc's assessment is perhaps the most telling. The Monaco-based driver said something that should terrify every F1 fan. Drivers will have to forget everything we've learned in our careers to start again from a blank page. Think about that. These are athletes who have been perfecting their craft since they were 4 years old, and now they're being told their muscle memory is essentially worthless. Now, Tombazis is trying to calm these fears with what seems like reasonable logic. He's saying that drivers always feel the difference initially when switching to a slower car, but once they get used to it, it actually doesn't matter. His argument is that F1 has had various phases when cars have been slower or faster and drivers adapt. He's also pointing to their simulations, claiming they don't have data from all teams yet, and suggesting that lap times won't be a talking point once the season starts. The FIA president even acknowledges they've learned from 2014 when one team had a massive advantage and they're confident this won't happen again. But here's where this explanation falls apart completely. Because what Tombazis isn't addressing is the fundamental question that's keeping drivers awake at night. It's not just about speed. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal shows why even Fernando Alonso, who supports the direction, is warning this could go either way. The real issue isn't just that cars will be slower, it's the complete transformation of how F1 cars will behave. The new regulations feature a 50-50 power split between the ICE unit and battery power, and according to the drivers who have tested these concepts in simulators, it's creating a driving experience unlike anything they've encountered. Felipe Drugovich, the Aston Martin reserve driver, has shared a particularly concerning insight about the speeds. Despite the cars being slower on lap time, he's revealed they could reach speeds up to 400 kilometers per hour on straights. But here's the terrifying part he's added: that such speeds would make the car push like crazy out of corners, and drivers would feel like they're sitting on a rocket. Fernando Alonso, despite being a supporter of the direction, has made a crucial admission that reveals the scale of this problem. He specifically mentioned that tracks like Spa and Suzuka, high-speed, less downforce circuits, are not going to be as exciting as what they are now. This isn't speculation, this is coming from a driver with experience since 2007. But the most revealing insight comes from Lewis Hamilton, who, despite embracing innovation, has warned that this could go either way. The Ferrari driver said, "I don't really want to shut it down because maybe things will be good." Let's see when we get into the next season. Even Hamilton, known for his diplomatic approach, is expressing genuine uncertainty. Here's what makes this situation critical for Formula One's future. If Max Verstappen follows through on his early retirement threats because of these regulations, the sport faces an unprecedented crisis. As the source material points out, while the entire sport doesn't revolve around him, Verstappen brings a massive chunk of F1's current popularity. If that vanishes because of the FIA's decisions led by Ben Sulayem, the governing body would find itself in a very difficult position. The timing couldn't be worse. F1 is at peak global popularity, with new markets opening up and unprecedented fan engagement. But these regulations are creating a scenario where the sport's biggest stars are questioning whether they want to continue. Charles Leclerc's simulator sessions are already showing concerning patterns. Despite saying he's looking forward to the challenge, his description of having to erase something from my muscle memory suggests a level of adaptation that goes far beyond normal regulatory changes. Lance Stroll's criticism of over-artificialization points to a deeper philosophical problem. When multiple drivers are saying there are tons of rules ruining the sport's nature, it suggests the FIA may have fundamentally misunderstood what makes Formula One compelling. The evidence suggests we're looking at teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin potentially having advantages due to their engine supremacy, but even drivers from these teams are expressing doubts about whether the regulations will be enjoyable. This brings us to the questions that will define Formula One's future. First, can the FIA navigate through what they themselves acknowledge are murky waters before permanent damage is done to the sport's appeal? Second, with testing still months away, are we witnessing the early warning signs of a regulatory disaster that could take years to correct? Remember, as Tombazis admitted, they don't have complete data from all teams yet, and some teams might perform even worse than their simulations predict. Third, and perhaps most importantly, if drivers like Verstappen, Leclerc, and even supportive voices like Hamilton are expressing genuine concerns, what does this tell us about the disconnect between the FIA's vision and the driver's reality? Fernando Alonso's team, focusing on 2026 early, suggests some teams see opportunity in this chaos. But the question remains, will it be opportunity built on the ruins of what made Formula One special, or genuine innovation that elevates the sport? What are your thoughts on these 2026 regulations? Do you think the FIA is headed in the right direction? Or are we witnessing the beginning of Formula One's biggest regulatory mistake? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more F1 analysis that cuts through the PR speak to reveal what's really happening in the paddock.